Hello everyone, welcome back to Becca's Book Nook. Today I'm going to be doing a bookshelf tour. It has now officially been a year since I did my 2021 bookshelf tour, and there are so many additions and even new shelves a part of my bookshelf now that I just wanted to show off to you guys because it brings me joy and I love looking at it every day, so I wanted to share it, and that's pretty much it. That's the whole point of this video. So I have filmed a tour and I'm going to just get right into it and show you guys now. I hope you enjoy. Starting off with my floating shelves, as I did in my last video, I have my old Harry Potter covers on this first floating shelf and a couple little mystery capsules and a Harry Potter Pez thing. These covers are just so old and worn, and I didn't necessarily want them on my bookshelf anymore just because of the way they look, and I have new covers, but I still did want to keep them obviously, so I have them on display in this way. Then I have my Twilight books. I just kind of wanted them on display as well. The covers are just so nice and minimalistic. I just didn't really have room for them on my main shelf, so they are being displayed in this way. And then I have my Lorien Legacies books here, the I Am Number 4 series. I love these books as well, but I just wasn't really digging the look of the black and white covers on my shelf, so I just decided to display them on the wall. All right, so here is the overview of my main bookshelf. The lighting's a little weird right now, but they are pretty big shelves. There is 5 shelves on each one of these, and they are 2 stacked next to each other. I'm just gonna go into the individual shelves now. Here is my top left shelf, and we'll start out with my Harry Potter section over here. So up top I have just a little plaque that says I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good, which my mom got me for Christmas this year since I had been so into the Marauders and the All the Young Dudes era. So I'm obsessed with that. I obviously have my main 7 Harry Potter books up there in the beautiful new covers. I'm obsessed with the way that these look, and they're so nice and colorful. I have my Time Turner over there on the 2nd and 3rd book, and I got all these minifigures in the mystery boxes. So there's Hagrid here, Remus is here, Harry, Dumbledore, and we've got Flitwick, my head of house, and McGonagall down there, as well as my Patronus, which is a cat in the Funko Pop design. It's really dusty, sorry about that. Then I do have my Harry Potter and the Cursed Child book. I really wasn't the biggest fan of that play when I read it, but I did go to the midnight release and it just deserves a place on my spot for that. I then do have my Fantastic Beasts script there. I guess it's a manuscript type thing. I just like the look of it, so it's there. I have the Philosopher's Stone in my house colors, as well as another copy of Half-Blood Prince because it's my favorite one. The second half of the shelf is mainly just Leigh Bardugo. I have the Six of Crows duology, as well as the Shadow and Bone trilogy. And then I do have the Final 6 by Alexandra Monnier, as well as this little flask type thing from the Pensieve, and I just have shots written on it. Next up is my Rick Riordan shelf in the top right. I have these new beautiful Percy Jackson covers. I love that it is the New York skyline on the back. I believe behind these I have my original copies somewhere hidden back there. They are so bent out of shape and loved obviously, but it just wasn't good enough to be on my shelf anymore. I then have my Heroes of Olympus series. My Son of Neptune is the only one that I am missing a book jacket on. Don't even ask me where that is because I genuinely have absolutely no idea where it possibly could have gone. Then Mark of Athena, The House of Hades, Blood of Olympus. Then moving on to the end, I have the Kane Chronicles trilogy, as well as the first book in the Magnus Chase series. I never really got into it, unfortunately, and the first 3 books in the Trials of Apollo series. Next up are, of course, my Shadowhunter shelves. They've moved from the last time they were in this video. They were obviously up top, and now I have moved them just more on eye level for me, I guess. So I'm gonna just go through them all just because there are a lot and I love all my hardcovers. So I have the Shadowhunters Codex over here, of course. It is so beautiful without the cover. It is without it. Like, look at that. Then, of course, I have my Clockwork Angel copy, which is recently annotated, as well as my favorite of the series, Clockwork Prince, which is also newly annotated, and there's an empty space there for Clockwork Princess because I am currently annotating that. Then we have the 2 books in the Last Hours trilogy. We have Chain of Gold as well as Chain of Iron. Then we have the whole of the Mortal Instruments series. We have City of Bones, City of Ashes, City of Glass, City of Fallen Angels, City of Lost Souls, and City of Heavenly Fire, as well as the Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy and this cute little candle. Then we have the remainder of the Shadowhunter Chronicles that obviously don't fit on one shelf. We have the Bane Chronicles here. We have Lady Midnight in the, obviously, the Dark Artifices trilogy, Lord of Shadows, and Queen of Air and Darkness is on display just because I love the cover and because I just wanted to fill up some more space on this shelf. So we then have Ghosts of the Shadow Market here, which I was obsessed with when I read it, and the 2 books here in the, I forget, the Elvis Curses series, The Red Scrolls of Magic and The Lost Book of the White. Both I have to read this year. I then just have a little bee light up type thing. I think it lights up on the bottom. Just like that. And then I have a book on Audrey Hepburn here, and I have a notebook that is just covered in stickers that I like to write ideas on. Up next, I have my Lunar Chronicles series here. So we have, of course, Cinder, Scarlet, Cress, my favorite. Then we have Winter, as well as Stars Above, which are both in hardcover. It does kind of hurt me that the rest aren't in hardcover, but what can we do about that? I am hoping to reread this series this summer. Then we do have the Selection series. We have the Selection, the Elite, the One, as well as the novella, Happily Ever After, and the 2 sequels books, The Crown and the Heir, about the daughter, Edelyn. We then have some Holly Black. We have The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, Queen of Nothing, and then some Victoria Aveyard with Red Queen, Glass Sword, King's Cage, Warstorm, and Broken Throne. And then I do have just a piece of a shattered mug that I just think looks really cool because of the face on this shelf, and as well as my fairy lights sort of stringing along. Welcome to my Sarah J. Maas shelf. I have all of the Throne of Glass books here in the order that I read it in, with Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, then The Assassin's Blade, Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash. Moving on, I do have the ACOTAR books. I have A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is, of course, A Court of Mist and Fury. I had just had it turned around to show my annotations, but now I have way more books on my shelf that I've annotated, and I'm just going to turn it back around. A Court of Wings and Ruin, A Court of Frost and Starlight, and then I do have the first book in the Crescent City books that I have not yet read, as well as my Midnight Blue Citrus Candle that reminds me of Reese, so it stays on this shelf. Alright, so next up on this shelf we have my Hunger Games books, as with my Mockingjay necklace here that I got in probably the 5th grade. And then I also have my Divergent books here with Divergent, Insurgent, Allegiant, and 4, which was the companion novella. Then we have my Jennifer L. Armentrout books with From Blood and Ash, A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, The Crown of Gilded Bones, and I have yet to get the newest one. Then we have some Claire the Grand with Furyborn, Kingsbane, and don't get me started about how just minutely taller Lightbringer is than the rest of the books. It will forever piss me off. I then have the House on the Cerulean Sea, Truly Devious, and A Dance of Thieves, all of which I have yet to read. This is another shelf with which a few of the books I have yet to touch. Most of them I have yet to touch, I would think. I have The Last Wish, which is the first book in the Witcher series. My cousin bought it for me for my birthday. I really need to get into it. I just have not been in a fantasy mood, as I've mentioned. I have Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. I picked this up for really cheap at a thrift store thinking that I would want to read it and really just have not been in the mood. I then have Dune by Frank Herbert, which I was supposed to read before the movie came out and never got to, so who knows if I ever will. I then have The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. I mainly bought it because of how stunning the cover was and have not gotten to it yet. I then have A Curse So Dark and Lonely. Tried to get into it, couldn't. To Kill a Kingdom by Alexander Christo, I loved. I have read it. A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair, I also loved. Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I just have it on a different shelf than the Lunar Chronicles because it is a standalone, and I just felt like they didn't really go together, so it is over here. I also am obsessed with this book. Serpent and Dove, I have read. I have yet to read Blood and Honey. I will get to it eventually. I just don't know when. I have The Gilded Wolves, which I loved, as well as Silvered Serpent, which I loved. I still have yet to read the last book, but I'm debating bringing it to France or not because it is set in Paris and I'm going to be there, so why not? I have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, which I really enjoyed, as well as We Hunt the Flame, which I enjoyed. The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. I'm still not quite sure why this isn't up top with my other Leigh Bardugo books. Maybe I will change that. It just felt like it fit here more. I have the first two books in the Caraval series, Caraval and Legendary, as well as The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which I really need to get into, just have not had the time to yet. Here's another shelf that is really all over the place. I'll start over here with my mother-daughter book club books by Anna Vogel Frederick. What's her name? Heather Vogel Frederick. I read these books in the 6th grade and they're just now sort of comfort series for me. So I have the books that I do have from this series on my shelf. I reach for them when I'm in the mood to just sort of feel nostalgic, and I love having them on my shelf. I then have Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. I have to read this book this year. I'm excited to get into it. I just really need to be in more of a fantasy mood. If you're not new to this channel, you know how I felt about The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Super disappointing. I couldn't get past 50 pages, so it stays here on the bottom shelf. This is another edition of Twilight that I have. I bought it at a secondhand store because I liked the way that it looked. I have this book by Amanda Sun called Rain, which I also picked up at a secondhand store. I thought the cover was absolutely stunning and it sounded just really interesting, so I'm hoping to get into that at some point this year. This is my Narnia collection. I have Voyage of the Dawn Treader out right now because I am still trying to finish it, but I have the other 6 there. It was just in a box set. Then I have just sort of a smorgasbord of other books that I didn't have any other place for. These are a couple textbooks. Here, some Alice Munro. I have Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, as well as John Green's The Fault in Our Stars and The Devil Wears Prada, Call Me By Your Name, and then I have In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle because I absolutely despise that book and not even sure if I want it on my shelf anymore. And finally, this is my classics shelf. I have talked about these beautiful covers before. There are definitely a few more in my collection since the last time I have done a bookshelf tour, so I'm just going to show them all to you. Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. A Tale of Two Cities, Charles Dickens. Little Women, Louisa May Alcott. The Beautiful and Damned, as well as some other stories by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Some Hans Christian Andersen tales. Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. My favorite one, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. My very first one, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. And my newest one, Madame Bovary. Also on this shelf, I have a big book of all of Jane Austen's works. Well, not all of them, but there's 5 of her books in there. I have 1984 by George Orwell. I have the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer. I have this Little Women edition, which is the movie edition from the 2019 Little Women. I have Emma by Jane Austen. I have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I also have Persuasion by Jane Austen and The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Now for the newest addition to my room. It is my romance, contemporary sort of shelves. It is just these white shelves that I got from IKEA, and I built them myself, and it's just two of them stacked together. Up top, I just have a jewelry box, a fake plant, and this little head full of my everyday makeup sort of things. So I'm just gonna go through the books that are on this shelf, and let's just get right into it. This first shelf is packed in pretty tight, but it is my two Emily Henry books, Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation. Of course, they had to be in the top shelf. They are both packed in pretty tight there, otherwise I'd take them out, but I'm sure you guys have seen them in my other videos. Then next I have my Christina Lauren books. So I have Love and Other Words here, The Soulmate Equation, In a Holidays, My Favorite Half Night Stand, The Unhoneymooners, and Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. And then followed up by my two Lynn Painter books, Better Than the Movies and Mr. Wrong Number. On the second shelf, I have my three L. Kennedy books. So I have The Deal here, The Mistake, and The Score. And I have yet to read The Goal. I'm not sure if I'm ever actually going to read it, but I did love these three, so I wanted to get them for my collection. I then have my three Sally Thorne books in order of, not even really in order of how much I like them, but 99% Mine is my favorite, so it is first on the shelf. And then we have The Hating Game and Second First Impressions. Then we have my Tessa Bailey books. So we have Fix Her Up, Love Her or Lose Her. I don't yet have Tools for Engagement, but I will get it soon. It Happened One Summer, Hook, Line, and Sinker. And then I have this book that I just found at Book Outlet, and it is called Waiting for Tom Hanks by Carrie Winfrey. Then we have my third shelf, which is just a smorgasbord of stuff, kind of. I guess I don't really have a lot by like one singular author on this shelf, but I do have The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang, The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood, Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I have Not the Girl You Marry, as well as Not That Kind of Guy, both by Andy J. Christopher. I have yet to read this one, but I have read, of course, Not the Girl You Marry. It's a phenomenal book. Then I do have The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. I don't really like to talk about that book that much. It was a big disappointment for me. I then have The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai. I did love this book. And then I have these two books by Martha Waters, To Have and to Hoax, and To Love and to Loathe. Okay, I lied before. This is actually the smorgasbord of all smorgasbords. We have Christine Riccio's book, Again But Better. I just got this book for my birthday. It is In a New York Minute by Kate Spencer. I'm not quite sure what it's about yet, but I'm excited to read it. I have All About Us by Tom Ellen. I have one of my new favorites, The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I didn't think it deserved a place on my other shelf, so it is here. I then have The Upside of Falling by Alex Light. The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. I have yet to finish this book. I hate it so much. Last Chance Books by Kelsey Rodkey. Yes, and I Love You by Roni Lauren, which I love. And Addicted to You by Christy and Becca Ritchie, which I still have yet to read as well. Moving on to my bottom shelves, they are even more random. I have two books over on this side that are not even mine. I have Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and White Hot Kiss, which are my neighbor's books that she lent to me that I have yet to get to. I then have The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling, which I was hoping to read in October but never got to. I have How to Love by Katie Catugno. I'm not sure. I have yet to read that one as well. I have Always in December by Emily Stone, which I was supposed to read in December. Blame It on the Mistletoe by Beth Gerard, which I was also supposed to read in December. Just Haven't Met You Yet by Sophie Cousins, which I was, you guessed it, supposed to read in December. I then have The Dubliners by James Joyce, and this was just a textbook for one of my classes, but it's a really pretty cover, so I have it on my shelf. And then I have the 3rd season of The OC, which is not even a book. However, this is my most random shelf at all because most of it's not even books. I've got a couple movies, a couple TV shows, Serendipity and You've Got Mail are 2 of my favorite movies of all time. And then I do have Roman Holiday on here, as well as Moulin Rouge and 3 seasons of How I Met Your Mother. I also have 2 poetry books. There I have Milk and Honey and A Beautiful Composition of Broken. And I have a Dream Interpreter and A Poet's Guide to Poetry by Mary Kinsey, which is a textbook for one of my classes as well. I am absolutely obsessed with these shelves. I can't wait for the bottom 2 to be filled with just books when I have enough romance books. But I am very happy that I have this addition to my bookshelf, as I would not have been able to fit all of these books on there any other way. That was my updated 2022 bookshelf tour. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing everything on my shelves and liked the layout that I have. If you did like this video, please make sure to give this a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I do post new bookish videos every Wednesday that you do not want to miss. Comment down below any series that you think I should add to my bookshelf. I'm not really sure what I want to read this summer yet. I have a couple ideas, but nothing crazy. So let me know if you have any suggestions, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!